look like a little man.
Hello, my lovely Misfitians, and welcome back to another video on my channel. So it has been quite a while. I have a lot to update you on, but before I even begin this video, I want to say there's going to be some trigger warnings because I'm going to be talking about some things that were very scary and very traumatic in my life that happened over the past couple of months. And hopefully you can take some of that information. And if you know someone who is pregnant, who might be showing some of these symptoms, you can warn them. Or if you yourself are going through this type of stuff, because the only reason why I am here today, I'm not being dramatic. The only reason why I'm not dead is because I knew the signs early on and I was able to get in and get medical attention before it got really, really bad. So, what are the trigger warnings? The trigger warnings are going to be for preeclampsia, very traumatic labor and delivery thing, and also C-section. I had a C-section. So, I'm just going to put a blanket trigger warning because I don't know if I'm going to talk about anything else. There's a couple of other things that happened that were scary, but those are the main things that I'm going to talk about. And I'm hopefully going to get all of this done before my son wakes up because right now I just put him down for a nap. And that's the reason why I also have my earphones in because because I'm basically keeping an eye on him. Anyway, so let's go ahead and begin. First off, I want to say, if you are going through IVF, or you're thinking about going through IVF, there are a lot of risks involved with going with IVF and getting pregnant. I did not realize that until after I was pregnant. I wish I had been told that earlier on. My IVF doctors basically were telling me you will be considered high risk, but they weren't really elaborating why. And to be honest, I just thought, well, I'll be considered high risk because the baby might have issues, because it's difficult for us to get pregnant. That's not necessarily true. It can be true because it is difficult for us to get pregnant, and there were a couple of things that we were really worried about with our baby boy. And I'm not going to be sharing his name publicly. I'm just going to call him baby boy or my son in general, because this is my channel and I'm deciding to share my life publicly, and I really want him to, as much as possible, have a sense of privacy with public domain. So I'm not going to be sharing his name, and I won't be sharing his birthday or anything that is personal to him, but I'm going to be sharing what I went through. I will say that when we were going through the process of all these ultrasounds, which you will, if you're going through IVF, typically they will put you in a high risk category, which means you will be going to the doctor a lot and getting a lot of different ultrasounds. And it's not the cute little ultrasounds like you see. I think a lot of people would say to me, well, it's really nice because you get to see the baby a lot more. Actually, it's a lot more stressful because a lot of the ultrasounds that they were taking were not the cutesy ultrasounds like you think of when you go to get an ultrasound from the doctor and you're seeing the baby. A lot of them are related to how is the functioning of your baby? Are the organs working correctly? Are they on the correct spectrum? So you're not seeing cutesy ultrasounds. You're seeing things that you're honestly looking at and going, what is that again? What is this? So there were a couple of issues that he had early on that we had to have monitored. And so I was thinking, this is the reason why they say you're high risk, because they're basically monitoring your child, which is true. But I did not realize that when you go through the IVF process, you are more likely to get preeclampsia. So I'm going to put that out there. It's always good to know the signs if you are getting pregnant, no matter what. But especially if you're going through IVF, it is very, very important that you know the signs of preeclampsia. And I will go over the ones that I experienced and what I felt like, so that there's lots of different symptoms. A lot of them are very similar to just pregnancy symptoms, to be perfectly honest. But I'll share with you the ones that I had and the ones that kind of gave me a red flag to go get help. So I was going through all of that, and that's all these ultrasounds and the high risk pregnancy appointments with doctors. I was pretty much at the doctor once a week. And that was actually before, that was starting at like week 20. So usually when you get pregnant, you're going every week towards the end, your third trimester. I started going early on. And they were just basically monitoring, really, my son. They were kind of monitoring me too. And my son is crying. Hang on one second. So this is baby boy. This is my son. He is perfectly fine. He came a lot bigger. They thought he was going to be a preemie. Definitely was not a preemie. He definitely came and he was full term size. So, oh goodness. Anyway, getting back to basically what was happening, we were going every week and it was a lot of appointments. And it was just really stressful, and that's kind of why I took a step back. Personally, I hope you can hear me because I got the microphone hooked up to me. But I basically took a step back because I was extremely overwhelmed and I didn't know what to tell y'all, to be perfectly honest. Whenever I get overwhelmed, you probably notice I take a step back and I just kind of ghost a little bit online. And the reason is because a lot of times when it's happening in the moment, I don't know how to process it. And that's kind of what was happening specifically with him. There was a lot of concerns that the doctors had, and they kept telling us these concerns and telling us we needed to go back for more tests. And I just felt like, what am I supposed to tell y'all? Because I didn't really have a definite answer of like, this is bad. It was basically more of the lines of, well, this could be a problem in the future, but we just need to keep monitoring. And this could be a problem in the future, so we just have to keep monitoring. And so it was very overwhelming because they were telling you these things that could potentially be wrong with your child. And, but you just had to wait and kind of just go along. And another thing that was really scary is they basically said, if you feel like you don't feel movement, or if you feel like you need to come immediately in and stuff like that. And so it was just this constant stress of feeling like he might not make it. And it was incredibly terrifying, incredibly overwhelming. So that was a lot of stress. Going in to my third trimester. The next thing that happened during my third trimester, that was kind of end of second trimester. The next thing that happened during my third trimester is I have been diagnosed, and I don't think I've shared this on this channel yet, but a couple of years ago, I was diagnosed with EDS, which is Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. And that, during my third trimester, really badly flared up. Usually I can manage it pretty well, and that's why I don't really talk about it a lot. But it flared up really, really bad in my third trimester, and to the point that I was basically bedridden. I couldn't move. I was in a great deal amount of pain in my joints, to the point that it was hard to walk. It was hard to even hold things. Like one time I held a glass and I actually was holding it in the kitchen, and it dropped and it shattered basically right in front of my hand on the counter and cut my hand up pretty bad. And it was basically because with my Ehlers-Danlos, which is basically a muscle tissue disorder, a lot of times it's diagnosed as fibromyalgia, but with me, after doing tons of tests, they figured out it was actually Ehlers-Danlos. But basically what it does is it makes your muscles really loosey-goosey, I like to say, and it's very easy for them to just kind of tear or rip. And in my case, because I was so heavy with pregnancy, they were basically just giving out. They couldn't function anymore. My muscles were just like, nope, can't do this. So I was also having those issues as well towards the end of my pregnancy. So because of all those issues and because of all the mounting things that were going on, my doctor and I kind of set up a plan of like, let's go ahead and induce you so that we know I'm on staff, and I can help deliver, because we were basically going into a time when he would be gone on vacation, and I was worried I wouldn't have him per se. I'd have somebody else who didn't necessarily know my case as well as I wanted them to know my case. So I went in to be induced, and that had its own little problems to it. Not really horrible problems, but it went a lot faster than what they were planning when I was induced. And so what ended up happening is, instead of it taking really 24 hours, it only took me about 8 before I started getting into active labor. And then my doctor wasn't there because I had actually started so early. So they tried to basically take it slow and slowly give me meds, because my body just reacts to medication very, very quickly and very fast. And my body still reacted to it, even though I was getting the lower dose and they were giving me more of a controlled, my body still went full force into it. And that is actually another side effect of Ehlers-Danlos. You tend to be very, very sensitive to medication. So you're smiling. So I went into basically went into labor, went into active labor, and it was incredibly painful. I asked for an epidural, and they gave me an epidural because I was in so much pain. And come to find out, the reason why I was in so much pain and the reason why I was laboring so long was because he was stuck. His head was actually stuck in my pelvis and he couldn't come. Right, baby boy? You got stuck. Yeah, you got stuck. So he got stuck in my pelvis. He was actually hitting my pelvic bone over and over and over again every time I would push. So they could see his head, but they couldn't get him to come out. And they tried several different ways to try and get him out, and he could not get out. to the point that they were worried that he would stop breathing. And also, they were very, very worried about my bladder rupturing because I had basically not gone to the bathroom in hours because he was pressing on my bladder and they couldn't get a catheter in or anything like that. So they were very, very concerned also about that. So basically, they decided to do an emergency rushed C-section. So it was crazy how fast it happened, but within, I would say, probably 5 to 10 minutes, they had me prepped and ready to go, and I was being cut open for a C-section. It was fast. It was very traumatic because I was shaking uncontrollably from the epidural, but also from the other medicines that they had given me. So basically, it felt like I was having a seizure nonstop, a lot of people say it felt like you're shivering nonstop, but you're not cold. It was just nuts. And I could not stop moving. I was just so incredible. Like, my husband was really worried. He was like, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And stuff. And I was like, "Yeah, I feel like I can't stop shaking. Like, I have no control over it," and stuff like that. And I kept asking them, "Can you give me something to stop the shaking?" And they were like, "No, it's just something that just has to get out of your system and everything." So they did the C-section, and it was incredible how fast they did it. Basically, they cut, and then they got him out, and then they started prepping me and doing a lot of different stuff with me, just to make sure that I was okay. But when he came out, he wasn't breathing well. So that was another really scary thing because they basically showed him to me, showed him to my husband, and then immediately rushed him off to go work on him because he wasn't breathing well. So I'm really glad that we did the C-section when we did. And you would think that's really stressful. That's all happened, and very traumatic birth. And a C-section in itself is very, very difficult, and it's very painful too. Another thing, but a couple of days after my C-section, I had actually been discharged to go home. Baby boy was fine. He was okay to go home as well. And when I was at home, I noticed I started to feel sick. Okay, so I went home, and another thing that I didn't realize is you can have preeclampsia after you give birth. Doesn't necessarily have to happen before. So I went home and I started to feel sick, meaning I felt lightheaded. I felt like I was dragging because my whole body felt huge. It felt like I was incredibly bloated, to the point that I even started calling my legs like sausages. They were so huge. They actually started bruising because there was just so much fluid in my legs. And then another thing I started having was kind of this nausea feeling as well as headaches. And I started seeing little sparkles in front of my eyes. So all of those are signs of preeclampsia. You can also get those with pregnancy as well. But for me, they were signs of preeclampsia. And so I immediately was like, "Stephen, I don't feel good. I think I'm sick." And so he said, "Why don't you go take your blood pressure? Because if it's spiked, we need to go to the hospital because that sounds like preeclampsia." And so the final sign was my blood pressure was through the roof. It was really, really high. It was 168 over 90 something when I took it at home. And so my husband looked at me and he's like, that's not good. We're immediately going to the hospital. You're getting readmitted because this isn't good. And he was exactly right. So we went back to the hospital and I told my husband, I said, don't you dare take my baby into the ER because I don't want him getting sick. I'm going to go myself and I'm going to take care of myself because I don't want my baby to get sick. So he stayed in the car. He did not want to stay in the car. And I went in and I basically walked in. And little did I know, there are so many weird things that happened that night. But there had actually been a fight in the ER like 30 minutes before I arrived there. And someone had actually assaulted a nurse in the waiting room area. So I walked in and there are these huge 2 cops just standing at the door and I had to walk past them. And I was like, okay, this is odd, but I don't feel good, so I don't really care. I just need to go and talk to somebody. So I went to the front desk and I basically told them, hey, I'm having preeclampsia symptoms. And they immediately took it seriously and they said, let's go take your blood pressure in the back. And they actually put me with the nurse that had been assaulted. And they basically told her, she was like, I have to continue working, but my knee hurts because this person kicked me and stuff like that. And I think they actually I don't know the full specifics because I didn't ask questions because I was clearly out of it. But anyway, I remember them saying, hey, she's safe. You don't have to worry about her assaulting you. And I was like, what? But anyway, I stayed with her and they took my blood pressure again and it had skyrocketed up to 180 something. And at that point, I'm starting to kind of lose, I'm not fully tracking what's going on anymore. So they immediately admitted me to the back and they started giving me things to try and get rid of the fluid that was in my body because there was fluid around my heart and there was fluid in my lungs. And they also gave me something to immediately lower my blood pressure. So after, I would say 4 or 5 hours, I started to feel better. And I was like, okay, I'm starting to feel better. And the doctor came and said, no, I'm going to admit you to the hospital. Actually, we're not going to discharge you home from the ER. We're going to admit you to the hospital because we are worried that your blood pressure will spike again because this is a common thing that happens with preeclampsia. And I said, okay, that's fine. I hate that I have to stay away from my baby, but yeah, stay a couple more days in the hospital, 1 or 2 max. I ended up staying 2 weeks basically in the hospital, 10 days total. So 1.5 weeks. And the reason was because, and I did not realize this, when you get preeclampsia, your blood pressure will continue to spike and spike and spike. And they have to figure out a way to give you medicine that is scheduled so that it stays down. So why is it really bad that it just keeps continuing to, hang on, I might have to give him more milk. All right, so the thing that's scary with preeclampsia is that your blood pressure will continue to rise and rise and rise again and again and again. So they'll pull it down, it'll be a normal range, and then if they stop giving you the medication, it will rise again. So what happened over the next couple of days is my blood pressure kept rising in the middle of the night when they tried to wean me down from basically the medicine. And at a couple of times while I was there in the hospital, my blood pressure got so high that I was on continual watch because they were worried that I was either going to have a stroke or go into a seizure, a full-blown seizure. And basically they were very, very worried that I was going to die from this, because they could not figure out for the life of them why the medicines that they were giving me weren't keeping it down. So they would give me a medicine and it would go down, and then a couple of hours after my body basically acclimated to that medicine, I guess, it would spike again really, really high. So that is the reason why I was basically gone for so long. And I'm still processing through a lot of what happened. So, very much when I'm telling this story, I feel like I'm telling it as if it's from someone else's perspective and not my own. It feels very kind of weird to talk about it. So, finally, after 10 days, they found a combination of medicines, finally, that worked and kept my blood pressure down. The problem is, and this is the reason why I've been gone for so long, it hasn't necessarily just been because I have a new baby, which I'm super excited about, and I love being a mom. But my blood pressure is still continuing to skyrocket every once in a while. And they're still having to basically monitor me for it. So, and they told me that this might continue for another 6 months, or you might have these effects for the rest of your life. It just depends on how your body decides to acclimate to this new setting in your life, basically. So, that was my experience with preeclampsia. I'm still actively, I have to take a blood pressure reading twice a day. If not, sometimes I will take it 5 times a day, just to make sure that my blood pressure is correct and I don't need to go to the hospital again. So it's a constant thing of monitoring. And I'm trying to figure out how to come back on this channel and how to be a mom, but also how to work with my health and still put up boundaries for my health, because I'm still very much recovering from really the preeclampsia. The C-section, believe it or not, the C-section really was not that bad. And I know a lot of people, when I tell them that, they're like, C-sections are horrible. Like, are you sure? And I said, actually, the C-section was not bad compared, like the healing process compared to the preeclampsia stuff that I've had to go through. The preeclampsia is so much worse, and it's honestly so tiring. And it's nerve-wracking because it's a continual issue and stuff. So, yes, you want to talk now? Yeah. So, I am 100 times better. Yeah. Yeah. You gonna sit for me? Oh, you're not happy? So, yeah. I just put him down, and we'll see how long this lasts. A lot of times he likes to be attached to me, and I honestly think that's because for almost 2 whole weeks, beginning of his life, I wasn't there. I was in the hospital, and he was with my husband. So he's very much a Velcro baby. Yeah, he's crying again. All right, I got him down again. So before I close off this video, I just wanted to say, with everything that I went through with preeclampsia and a C-section and everything that was traumatizing about just the labor and delivery, I I am absolutely in love with my son. It has been 10 long years that I've been waiting for this, and I have loved every single minute that I've had with him. He is very much a Velcro baby, so he wants to be with me pretty much all the time. And he's a little bit fussy right now because he's fighting something, but he's just been amazing other than that. Just being a little bit fussy because he's been sick with just something minor. But anyway, I just want to say I absolutely love being a mom. I love every minute about it. I am just really sitting in it and cherishing it because with in all honesty, after everything that I went through with the preeclampsia, I don't know if we will ever try again. He might be our only one, so I am just going to really cherish these moments and just fall in love with him every single day. So hopefully that kind of gets you up to date on everything. It was a little bit more of a heavier video than what I guess I usually do. I want to be more like fun content on my channel. But I felt like I needed to talk about this, and it's a very serious subject. So in the future, I'm hoping for more like fun vloggy type videos, as well as just sharing my process with art and stuff like that. I have been trying to, as a mom, it's hard to find time to be artistic. So I've been really forcing myself to take like little minutes here and there to be artistic, and it's really helped me kind of get out of my bubble and process a little bit and just kind of have a little bit of me time. So I think I'm going to be sharing some of that with y'all if you are short on time and you want something to just feel creative. I think I'm going to share some of those things that I've been doing to feel creative, but at the same time, be a full-time mom. So, anyway, lots of love, y'all. Thanks for tuning in, and I will see you next time with a new video.